How we doing, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Points Early Tea Time live stream presented by Fantasy Points. I'm Hunter Vanness. I'm here to guide you through this awesome week that we get to call Masters Week, our favorite week of the year. Definitely my favorite tournament of the PGA Tour, my favorite of all majors. There's just something special about Augusta and the Masters tournament in general that really brings us as golf fans all together. And it's always just one of the most fun events to watch as well. So let's start to dive into it. Again, this is presented by Fantasy Points. I'm really excited to, really dive into their package this year. We have a really great team started off by the great team at Fantasy Points. They have a great package as well that we are offering. For just $14 a month, you can get a great subscription. New for 2022, our PGA Content Package covers everything from event course previews, player previews early in the week. You saw Pat James' article today that broke down all of the main stats that you need at Augusta. You'll see my event and course preview, of course, as well. You'll see a lot of great articles throughout the week and a lot of great premium live streams as well. So really looking forward to getting started with Fantasy Points. As we talked about it on the live stream last week, it's just going to be a growing package. I think we're going to continue to listen to our subscribers, of course, and just dive into what we think is going to be best for the overall fan, I guess. So I'm really looking forward to push that package to you guys, and we'll dive into that more throughout the stream here. So let's dive into the course. If you guys didn't see my event and course preview earlier today, you can pull that up on Fantasy Points. It's free all week long. All the content on Fantasy Points is free this week. There'll be a few articles each week that are free, of course, but for this week only, everything that we put out will be free. So looking forward to again pushing that to everybody. So again, thanks for joining me today. This is my first solo live stream, probably I think ever. I think I tried it one time and my computer didn't work out so well. So appreciate you sticking with me here. I'm looking at some notes as I do it solo. So if I'm looking at this other screen, you can see the side of my face for a little bit. So I appreciate you again sticking with me here today. So let's talk about the course. What can I tell you that you don't already know about Augusta? The course was designed by Alistair McKenzie and Bobby Jones. Long story short, Jones wanted to design a course after his retirement from golf. He hired Alistair McKenzie to design it in 1931, and it opened for play in 1933. Unfortunately, McKenzie passed away right before the Open, so he never really got to see, Augusta being played to its full potential. It was formerly a plant nursery, and each hole is named after a distinctive plant as well. So you'll see random names such as white dogwood, pink dogwood, firethorn, azalea, golden bell, Chinese fir. I'm not much of a plant guy myself, but you'll see a lot of those names throughout the weekend. Again, each hole just has a distinctive name after each plant. So you'll see all those plants kind of aligned along the fairways and stuff. So that's one of the beautiful things of Augusta. Again, it's definitely one of the most beautiful courses that we can see on the PGA Tour. The par is 72. You'll see 4 par 3s, 10 par 4s, and 4 par 5s, which is pretty typical for a par 72. The distance this year, we'll get into that here in a second. It's 7,510 yards. The greens are bent grass. The green speed, it's estimated about 13 plus on the stimp meter. They're lightning fast, but Augusta doesn't really give out a whole lot of stats as far as the greens and really anything. They kind of keep that secretive. So, estimated stimp meter of 13 plus, but they really are one of the fastest greens on the tour. We'll get into that here in a little bit as well. There are 5 water danger holes to my account. If you count the par 5 13th hole that kind of has Race Creek, aligned on the left side of it. So you'll definitely see some hazards in play on the back 9. They're all on the back 9 as well. They go 11, 12, 13, 15, and 16, I believe, for the water hazard holes. There's 44 sand bunkers, so definitely have to be hitting out of the sand. That's pretty low compared to other tour events from what I've been looking at over the season. There are 6 main birdie holes at Augusta, 2, 3, 8, 13, 15, and 16. These are all birdied over 15% of the time. 4 of those are par fives. I'll talk about that here in a second as well. You have to birdie those par fives in order to contend here. The most difficult holes at Augusta are 1, 4, 10, and 11. These are all bogeyed 20% of the time. Just hoping for par is really the best thing you can do. They're all play historically over par. So, again, just trying to get on and save par is really all you can hope for from your golfers on those 4 holes. The cut line over the last 10 years is between +1 and +6. Historically, it's been at +3 on average. Last year was at +1, which is actually an outlier. All the other cut lines, I believe, were between that +3 and +6 numbers. So I'm assuming we'll see somewhere around the same number this year. Augusta's tough, so I don't imagine it's ever really going to get below par unless course conditions are just really nice. There really aren't a whole lot of comp courses to Augusta because it's Augusta National. Like it's so difficult and it's so nice. I mean, there's nothing really that can compare to it. I do have a few that I think are similar. Riviera, which is home of the Genesis Open. Cordia, which has the Zozo. That one was built specifically to kind of tailor Augusta, as well as Muirfield Village, which hosts the Memorial. And then Kapalua has really wide fairways, which is similar to Augusta here. It's not really the toughest course off the tee. So, yeah. So, like I said, 7,510 yards this year. This is the longest in tournament history. They've lengthened this by about 35 yards longer than last year. Holes 11, 15, and 18 were all adjusted to add distance. The par 5 15th hole has been lengthened by 20 yards. That gets it up to about 550 yards. That's the par 5. Again, it's one of the easier holes on at Augusta. Yes, it's a little bit longer. The fairways changed a little bit as well within that hole. It should still be reachable by 2, from most of the field. However, there is a pond right in front of the green on that par 5. So, instead of hitting like that 6 and 7 irons, guys are really going to have to pull out that 4 or 5. And I don't know, we might see a little bit difference on that hole. Again, historically, it plays pretty easy, but we'll see if that water plays any bit different if guys are really trying to hit it in or hit on in 2. The difficult par 4 11th, which was already the second hardest hole. Excuse me, it's my first time, like I said. Averaging 4.36 strokes last year. It's par 4, so a little bit over par. It's been lengthened by 15 yards to 520 yards now. So that's actually longer than one of the par 5s, I believe. So again, it's one of the hardest holes on the course. It's a par 4. It's the start of Almond Corner, which I'll get into here in a second as well. It's really tough. So again, they adjusted a lot of these holes. I think distance will come into play. It's already one of the longest courses on tour. So distance was already going to be an impact in my opinion. So let's look ahead here. So again, the fairways are not too difficult to hit. They're the 4th widest on tour. The rough is also not too penalizing. It's under 1.5 inches. So I think we can kind of throw off the tee stats to the side this week. Normally, I love looking at ball striking, but I'm definitely going to be more heavily weighted on approach this week. The greens, like we said, it's some of the fastest greens on tour. They're bent grass. The word of the week, I think, is undulations. I think I've heard that and seen that in a lot of articles so far. You just see a lot of curves throughout these greens. They're very tough to predict in terms of speed and definitely, where you're aligning your ball up, I guess. But speed's going to be a big thing. And like I said, they're already some of the fastest on tour. So definitely going to be looking into putting, which I don't really do a whole lot. Again, the birdie holes are 2, 3, 8, 13, 5, or 15, and 16. You have to birdie these par 5s. They all have a birdie rate above 30%. Again, those par 5s. 6 of the 10 par 5s measure from 440 to 465 yards, while 3 of them measure 490 to 405. So definitely going to have some good par 4 scoring, of course, and I think from that range from 450 to 500, that might be a stat to throw into your model this week. Again, Almond Corner, it's hole 11, 12, and 13. It starts off with White Dogwood, again, hole 11, toughest hole on the course, played .36 strokes above par last year. It is the longest par 4 at Augusta, and again, they bumped it up to 510 yards. Hole 12, the middle hole of Almond Corner, it's called Golden Bell. It's 155-yard par 3. It's .18 strokes above par, and it has Rays Creek, excuse me, and bunkers that surround that green there. So it really makes those approach shots kind of difficult. And then hole 13, while those two holes are pretty difficult, hole 11 is the toughest. Hole 13 is actually one of the easiest holes on the course. It's birdied over 40% of the time, and it's actually eagled 3% of the time. So definitely one of the best scoring opportunities for guys there on that 13th hole. That's the course. I should have said this earlier. If you guys have questions about anything, players, the course, ownership, anything like that, throw it in the chat. That's what this live chat's really supposed to be about. I'm going to talk about a lot of this stuff in my article, of course, because that's what this is kind of about. But I more want this to be a conversation. If you have any questions about the course or questions about just guys in general, I'd love to talk about them here one-on-one. So, all right. So yeah, kind of went off there a little bit about the course a little bit. My main thoughts, it's just going to be difficult. It's not an expert opinion, of course, but it's going to be difficult for guys. One stat, like I said, off the tee is not going to be super important, I think, just because those fairways are pretty wide. The rough's not super long. It's all about that second. I mean, again, you're going to hear it all week long. That second shot is going to be really important. But the greens are difficult to hit as well. I don't think every single shot's going to hit the green, excuse me. Even the best iron shots could just have a terrible bounce on these, mounds and the greens. And I really think around the green play is going to be important, as well as scrambling too. So it's not just going to be that second shot course, of course. Some key stats to look at. So if you look at my article again on fantasy points, you can see all the stats that I'm looking at. You can see, some of the guys that rank the at the best at each of these stats. I'll kind of break that down a little bit, but if you have questions about any specific stat, such as par four scoring, excuse me, which I won't talk about really here in my article. I'll pull it up here in a little bit, but if you have any questions about stats like that, I'd love to again talk about them here. So first stat I'm looking at here is tee to green. If a player is not in good form, it's really tough to contend at Augusta, really regardless of what your course history says. Yes, there are guys that really excel here, but if you're not playing good golf, it's really tough to play well here. This is not a course where you can just get right, in my opinion. So again, that's not an expert opinion by any means. 5 of the last 6 winners had a top 5 in the season. Leading up to the Masters, tee to green stats heading to the Masters, every single winner over the last 10 to 15 years. Can't remember what I was looking at, but they were top 20 in tee to green going into the event as well. So again, tee to green is going to be big. I really expect the winner to be someone who's contended this season at a big time event. I'll talk about a couple of them a little bit later, but again, all those recent form stats. I'm a big recent form guy, of course. One of the big 3: recent form, course history, and what's the other one? I can't think of it right now. But again, Augusta's not a place to get right and fix your game. We kind of saw it last week. There were some guys that played at Valero that really did not need to, such as Rory, for example. He was even at Augusta a few days before the event even teed off. So they were just there to get prepped for the week. Bryson, Hideki, even we saw Hideki pull out. Bryson did not look good by any means, but really they just teed it up there to get prepped for Augusta, in my opinion. Again, you got to be great in all aspects of your game. Of course, tee to green, of course. One part of that is your approach play. Looking at last year, or really historically, over 60% of the approach shots came from 150 to 250 yards. Over 40% of that number was in that 150 to 200 range. And both of those, 150 to 175 and 175 to 200 are both, higher than tour average. So you're definitely going to need your long irons this week. Even the 200 to 225, 225 to 250 are all, again, more than the tour average there. So, going to need great long ball strikers this week. The top 5 players in, this is tee to green at least. Top 5 players in shots gained tee to green over the last 24 is Jon Rahm, Luke List, Justin Thomas, Daniel Berger, and Will Zalatoris. But really, all 5 of those guys are great ball strikers as well. So I'm really going to look at those long irons this week. I fully expect, one of those 5 to be in contention going into the weekend, of course. Looking at Augusta compared to other tour courses, like I said, off the tee is not as important. Really isn't impacted a whole, or it's not a big difference compared to other courses. Distance, however, is going to be much more important than the accuracy. And we talked about that as well. I think the fairways have a big part to do with that. But again, Augusta's a long course. It's now 7,500 yards. You're going to need distance. And again, those fairways aren't too penalizing. So if you miss them. So again, accuracy can kind of be pushed to the side a little bit when looking at stats. Shot gains approach, that's always important. Or strokes gain approach, always important. Like I said, I think that'll be fine. Or I don't think there's a big correlation between that and other courses. Around the green, though, there's almost a full 1/10 of a stroke difference between the correlation with shot gains or strokes gained total and just normal strokes gain around the green. So like I said, really looking at scrambling. I'll talk about that within my model a little bit later. That's probably why you'll see some really good scrambles at the top of my board. And putting, I don't know, putting, in my opinion, it's a stat that we we throw around quite a bit, I guess. I'm more looking at 3 putts this week. You got to be able to save par on these greens, and we'll talk about that again here in a second. As far as scramblers go, looking at former winners, Spieth, Zach Johnson, Patrick Reed, they were all great scramblers. Zach Johnson, the famous stat going around on Twitter so far is he didn't hit any of the par 5s during that Masters in 2. He just laid up every single time and still, went out there and won. So again, par 5s are really important, but you can still score birdies by laying up, of course. So he was just really good at it and was immaculate around the green that week. Top 5 players in strokes gained around the green in the last 24 are Joaquin Niemann, Daniel Berger, Luke List, Danny Willett, and Rory McIlroy. And as far as scrambling goes, the top 5 players in that stat are Robbie McIntyre, Matt Fitzpatrick, Bezadenhout, Daniel Berger, and Rory McIlroy. You'll hear Rory quite a bit throughout these stats here. Again, distance is important. I already talked about the course adjustments. You're going to have to club down into those firmer greens. So, the farther you hit it, the more wedges that you can use. It's just kind of that simple math stat. So definitely going to tie in distance a little bit into my model this week as well. This is pretty well known, but the top players in driving distance are Bryson, of course, Cam Champ, Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm, and Matt Wolff, which is a name I probably won't talk about a whole lot. And then par 5 scoring. Again, all 4 of the par 5 statistically play as the easiest on the course. They're birdied more than 30% of the time. If you just do the math there, like if you're not scoring birdie on those holes, 30% of the other players or 30% of the other scores are scoring birdie. So you're really at a disadvantage to the field. I'm no math teacher, but 30% is quite a bit. So the par 3 16th hole and the par 4 3rd hole are the only other holes with a birdie rate above 15%. So you're really not going to see birdies a whole lot this weekend. You're definitely going to want to have to save par and look at bogey avoidance a little bit as well. But you got to take advantage of these par 5s because that's really the one opportunity where every time you get up to the tee on those holes, you should be looking for a 4 or a birdie every single time. So one of the stats that I think really describes this one is Hideki was minus 11 on the par 5s last year, and he was plus 1 on all of his other holes, and he finished at minus 10. So like if you didn't have those par fives, if they weren't so scoreable, who knows? So I'm really looking at par five scoring. Um, I probably should add a little bit more into that too, just to kind of see how that shakes out because you've got to score birdie on all of these holes again in order to contend here. So, top five players in strokes gained par fives over the last 24 rounds are Matt Fitzpatrick, Patrick Cantlay, Rory Mcilroy, Scotty Scheffler, and Tyrrell Hatton. Let's talk about these greens a little bit. Again, they're bent grass surface. The speeds, again, are lightning fast, probably 13 plus on the stimp meter. They're going to be really fast. Again, on average, 3 putts per round, they are almost 50%, or sorry, 2 times more. Players see 3 putts 2 times more often than any other course. So, like it's pretty close to, let me look here. It's almost one per round that you see. So one hole around, you're seeing a 3 putt. So, I mean, for me, I'd be pretty happy with that 1 3 putt per round. But obviously, again, these guys, they can't be doing that in order to contend here. So, top players in 3 putt avoidance on fast bent grass greens are Tony Finau, Mackenzie Hughes, Patrick Reed, Tyrrell Hatton, and Matthew Wolff. Guess I did say his name once again here. So that's the course. That's the stats that I think are important. Um, I'm not sure, how important these putt or how much I should really weigh putting. I rarely look at it in my model. I think we've all kind of talked about that before. Putting's so there's so much variance in putting. You can be a great putter one week, terrible the next week. Obviously, there are guys that go out there every week and um, crush it on the putting greens. But Augusta's different. Like I said, there's so many undulations, there's so many difficult reads, and there's no green reading books, of course. So it's going to be difficult for some of these guys, especially if your iron shots are a little bit off and you're leaving yourself a 50, 60-foot putt. So yeah, that's kind of my stat breakdown. You can see more of that, or at least see it in a written view on Fantasy Points. I'll put that out every single Monday. Really looking forward to continue to do that. It's been a lot of fun so far, just breaking down these courses. Okay, so sorry, let me get into my notes here. Sorry, the course history is really important here. You'll hear that quite a bit as well this week. And it makes sense, I guess. It's a major, and it's a major that's played on the same course every single year. So guys are going to be locked in for this place, and it just kind of sets up for a specific I don't know, a specific set of players, I guess. You got to have a strong short game. You cannot be weak in the short game, of course, to contend here. Um, and you got to be able to score on those par fives, like I said. So let's look at some of the best players in that have course history here at Augusta. First one's going to be Jordan Spieth. Again, he won the 2015 Masters. He probably should have won the 2016 event as well. He had that 5-shot lead going into the back nine, but he just completely melted down, and Danny Willett stole that one from him. So he probably could be a 2-time Masters event winner, but he's got one under his belt in 2015. He was runner-up in 2014 and 2016, third in 2021, fourth in 2018. He's got a really great resume here. And he also had a really solid final round at Valero. I haven't really decided what I'm going to do with Spieth yet this week. Again, his course history is just so well, but I don't know. He played really well at Valero. So if he can continue that, I mean, there's no reason why we can't see him in the top 10 once again this week. So yeah, I'll probably bank on that one or this last week and say that he's started to figure it out a little bit. Next up is Hideki. In 2011, Hideki was the low amateur in his first major or his first Masters event. He finished T27 and shot 1 stroke under par. It's pretty crazy that he's been, doing this for that long since then, but it seems like he hasn't been around that long, but I could be wrong. He's never missed a cut here. He's got 5 top 15 finishes. Obviously, he's got those injury concerns. He pulled out, in the second round last week at Valero, due to the neck injury. So it's just kind of a wait and see approach with me this week for Hideki. I want to see how he does, maybe in a practice round, and just kind of see what the news is about him. And that's why, it was really great to fade him at the Players when you got that news on Wednesday. Sometimes you just got to do that extra research, before the event starts. So the best thing you can do, I think, is check those trackers on Twitter. The Hideki tracker, I think, was the one that broke that news. So, like I said, check those trackers are following, news for these players much more than I am and, most of us out there. So check the Hideki tracker. We'll talk about some more injuries here in a second, but again, check Twitter. That's the best thing you can do. I always thought, if you don't have Twitter, you don't have to have Twitter to do well in this, of course, but you just get so much information that can kind of give you an advantage sometimes. So Hideki's top finishes at Augusta include a win in 2021, fifth in 2015. He was T7 in 2016, T11 in 2017, and T13 in 2020. So pretty solid resume as well. Jon Rahm never won here. He won the U.S. Open last year, of course. He finished top 10 in each of the last 4 years. Never really in contention last year, but he shot a 66 in the final round, which put him all the way up into 5th place. So, yes, he finished top 5, but it was a major, backdoor top 5 there. He's never missed a cut here. He has a top finish again in each of the top 10 finish in each of the last 4 years. 4th in 2018, 5th in 2021, 7th in 2020, and 9th in 2019. I think Rahm, he's getting a lot of ownership. He's probably twice his own as Scheffler. His short game, I don't know. Do you believe his short game is broken, or do you think, I don't know. I guess I don't really have a major thought on Jon Rahm and his short game. It's just been so bad recently. Ever since he complained about I can't remember what the event was, but he was walking off and complained about it being a putting contest. He just has not been, Jon Rahm that we saw last year. So I'm really interested to see how he does this week. I'll be playing him in DFS. There's no way that you can. He's just got great course history here, and he is at the top of most of your models and most stats besides, again, that short game and putting, of course. So it's really tough to tell you to fade him. And of course, can't get through this course history report without talking about Tiger Woods. He's coming in at 8,500. He has won almost 10 million of his career earnings, throughout his 23 Masters appearances, which is pretty crazy. So he's got 14 top 10 finishes at Augusta, including a 7-year stretch of consecutive top 5 finishes from 2005 to 2011. His resume is really amazing here. When I say his top finishes, it's really all of his wins in 97, 2001, 2002, 2005, and 2019. But he's got 14 top 10s at Augusta. So I've been wavering so much on Tiger. Again, I'm not going to bet him. I don't think he's going to win by any means this week, but I've definitely started to turn the page a little bit on thinking that he can make the cut and top 30, top 20. I don't think there's any reason why we can't, think that now. He's looked pretty solid in those practice rounds. There's nothing that's saying that he's struggling as far as, a health standpoint goes. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I can't freaking wait to watch Tiger play this week. As far as DFS goes, he's coming in under 5% owned, I think, on Fantasy National, but I think that number is obviously going to go up, especially as these practice round goes out, and especially as we'll see from his press conference as well. So I don't know. I'm just so excited. Of course, I can't tell you to put money on Tiger. Of course, I'm not betting him outright by any means. You are more than welcome to do so if you want to. Use me as your bookie for that. You can do that. But I don't know. I'm just so excited to watch him. I don't really need to have money on Tiger this week to I don't know, cheer him on, I guess. I'm just looking forward to watching him. Okay, some other course history options to consider. I'm not going to go through all of them. You can see them here on the article here again on Fantasy Points, but some big ones I'll look at. DJ, he won in 2020. 9 for 11 and made cuts. He's got 4 top 10s here in the last 5 years, very similar to Jon Rahm. So, all those options up at the top, besides Morikawa and Hovland, have great course history here, in my opinion. If you're trying to be different this week, you definitely want to look at Hovland and Morikawa. But yeah, DJ is a really solid option, in my opinion. And he's showed like really solid form, really, in the last few tournaments too. So I like DJ quite a bit. Xander, not huge on Xander this week. He didn't look too great at the match play, so I don't know. He's got good history here as well, so I don't know. It's just not going to be for me. Got to make decisions, of course, but you are welcome to go there. And course history is a great, argument why you can do so. JT, top of the board as well, 6 for 6 and made cuts total. 4th in 2020, 12th in 2019, 17th in 2018. Really like JT quite a bit as well this week. I'm not trying to talk about everybody, but I saw a narrative that he's going to be a little, distracted, I guess, because of Tiger. I'm not really buying that at all. That's not, quantitative at all. We can't measure that by any means. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about JT, especially from the Tiger Woods narrative standpoint. So, not for me there. And last one I'll say here, Cameron Smith. Made 5 cuts here out of 5 attempts. T5 in 2018, T2 in 2020, and T10 in 2021. I'll talk about him here in a little bit. He's my favorite play. There's no sneakiness or there's nothing, like I said, nothing sneaky about that. But I do like Cam Smith quite a bit, and he's got the course history to back him up here too. So there's some solid options to finish out that list. Again, you can see on the article there. A lot of them are cut makers that have made the cut, recently over the last, 4 to 5 years, and I think are great value points for your lineup. So again, you can find that on Fantasy Points. So top 10 players and overall strokes gained at Augusta. It's going to be Tiger Woods, Jordan Spieth, Justin Rose, he's in that list, Jon Rahm, Rory McIlroy, Dustin Johnson, Lee Westwood, Hideki Matsuyama, Brooks Koepka, and Tony Finau. So I gave you a lot of stats there. I gave you quite a few names throughout that list as well. From my count, again, no math teacher here, but from my count, Rory appeared in the list 5 times. Rahm appears 3 times. Berger actually makes an appearance 3 times throughout that list, and Luke List appears twice. So I'm sure there's a couple names that I might be missing that were in there 2 or 3 times, but those are some names that kind of stood out to me. Am I telling you to lock them in your lineups? Definitely not. But I think we have some potential, leverage opportunities with a couple of those guys. So when I throw all those stats together in a model, again, do that on Fantasy National, gives me some names. Let me pull it up here in a second. So JT ranks at the top of my model. Again, no surprise there. I should see someone at his caliber up top there. I'd be surprised or worried at least if it was someone in the 6Ks, I guess. So Rory McIlroy is going to sit second. Joaquin Niemann, one of my favorite value plays in the $8,000 range, is going to be third in my model. Fourth is going to be Cam Smith, and Tom Hoagy comes in at 5th. And you can read a little bit more about him in the article as well. He's going to be my value piece. It's one of those, you trust your model. I really do as far as Tom Hoagy goes. So I really like him quite a bit. His form's just been so well. He ranks 10th in putting, 29th in free putt avoidance. He is a great ball striker as well. He's 12th in approach, and his around the greens been pretty good as well. And he's a great bent grass putter too. So I do like Tom Hoagy quite a bit this week. So yeah, that's my model. Those are the stats that I'm looking at. Probably going to tweak that around a little bit. Maybe we can do that a little bit on the stream here as we get towards the end. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. Trying to make not the greatest at checking the YouTube comments there. So cool. All right. Some final points here before we get it to any final questions. So as always, of course, again, the Masters has, a top tier field. I think the number is 91 guys in the field this week. And includes, 48 of the top 50 ranked golfers in the official world golf rankings. Harris English, I think he just said he had hip surgery, so he's not participating this week. He's one of the two not in the field. And then Phil Mickelson, he's got hurt feelings, so he will not be in the field as well. To qualify for the Masters, you got to meet one of 19 different criteria. One of those criteria is winning a major in any of the last 5 seasons. One of them is winning the Masters. So if you've ever won the Masters, you'll always receive an invite back to Augusta each year. And that's why you see a lot of names in the $6,000 range that are, older guys or guys that we don't really see on tour a whole lot. Bernhard Langer, of course. Again, you'll see a lot of them in that lower 6K range that, yes, there's some potential with a couple of them maybe for, making cuts. I don't think it's really someone, I don't know, for a couple $100 more, you can pay for guys that have high potential. Yes, they probably don't have great course history here, but they are in much better form and like 15 years younger too. So, I'm not really going to be going to any of those lower 6K, former champions. All right. Yeah, that's as far as the field goes, that's all I really got. JJ Spawn will also be heading to Augusta this week as he won the Valero last week. So that's kind of cool how you can always get back in on that last week. So that's always fun to look for, especially at the Valero or really before any major. So a couple things that are different this week. The cut line is set for the top 50 players, including ties. Normally it's top 65, but since the field is only 91 players, I think I have that right, compared to the typical like 144. Again, the cut line is just going to be a little bit different. So, in the past, players who were 10 strokes within the lead also made the cut. So that rule was changed before the 2020 Masters. So we won't see anything crazy like that or anything that you have to look out for when sweating the cut on Friday afternoon. Some final thoughts here. So weather, this is subject to change. So what I tell you on Monday, it's probably going to change by Wednesday night. So my best, recommendation to you is to check the weather on Wednesday night. As of now, looks like we should see storms Tuesday and Wednesday. And that's supposed to clear by Thursday afternoon, so we might see a delay Thursday morning that could potentially, push Thursday's first round into Friday's round, or Friday's second round, and they'll just play. Guys that are in the afternoon T wave will now become morning guys on Friday. So, I don't know. I don't want to like twist your mind too much yet because this can obviously change. We saw with the players, you have to pay attention to weather. I'm not really one that like focuses on tee time stacks so much to where I have to have 30% of my lineups to be AM, PM guys. I think if you cover both sides of it, have a couple, depends how many you play, of course, but I'm a 20 max guy. So I put like 1 or 2 AM, PM, and then 1 or 2 PM, AM, and just, if hopefully something falls one of the 2 ways there. So, hey, Ryan, what's up, man? Thanks for joining. Appreciate it. If you have any questions, let me know. So yeah, as far as weather goes, one thing I would tell you with that, head to the Fantasy Points Discord channel to really get any updates on weather. We'll talk about, tee time stacks and any potential advantages that you can get as far as a, weather standpoint goes. So, again, that's more of a to be determined thing. We should see some thunderstorms, might cause, we might see wet conditions. So maybe, might be a little bit more birdieable on that very first opening round. We'll see though. We should see some windy conditions going into Friday and Saturday. So it's not like, if guys get pushed into Friday, that they're going to be any more advantageous. So we'll see, I guess. If Friday is supposed to be really, really bad and you guys have to play like their back 9 of the first round and then a full 18, maybe that's something we want to look into. But again, look into it throughout the week. Check that Fantasy Points Discord. We'll talk about it as much as we can. As far as ownership goes, let's go ahead and look at it right now. I'm going to pull it up. I just like refreshing it throughout the day, I guess. As of now, highest owned golfers are Brooks Koepka, Cam Smith, Corey Connors, Will Zalatoris, Justin Thomas, John Rahm, Matt Fitzpatrick. Siwoo Kim has been rising quite a bit. That's interesting. And Joaquin Neiman. Interesting. Okay. So, yeah, there's your highest owned golfers so far. It's obviously going to change as we get closer to, Thursday's tee time. Um, as far as like the 6 for 6 goes, if you are new to DFS, that means how many golfers sorry. So there's a cut line. How many of your golfers made the cut? If all 6 in your lineup make the cut, you get a 6 out of 6 lineup. So um, look for updates throughout the week. As ownership shakes out, I think that 606 made cut percentage is going to go up a little bit this week since we have a smaller field. So I don't know. We'll see because the cut line's smaller too. So we'll just kind of see how the chalk shakes out. Again, course history is again, out of all courses on the PGA Tour, Augusta is the most predictive as far as course history goes. So guys, again, play the best at Augusta. So, or guys that play the best at Augusta continue to play the best. So, and that causes the chalk or the ownership to always go up on that group of players. So, how can we maybe differentiate from that? I think one way is to take a chance on some debutantes or some guys that are playing for the very first time, such as a Tom Hoagy, because we have no clue if his game fits or not. Obviously, I could be 100% wrong on it. It's Tom freaking Hoagy. Of course, he's not, an elite talent by any means, but, again, guys that are playing for their very first time are going to have deflated ownership just because course history gets talked about all week long. So Sam Burns, Taylor Gooch, again, a lot of those guys that are playing for the very first time will likely be 15, 10% or less, in my opinion. Again, looking at the ownership right now, there's Sam Burns is the first one that pops up. He's not even top 10 highest owned, maybe top 15. He's the first debutant that pops up here. So, yeah, these guys that again are playing for the very first time here are not going to be highly owned. There's great leverage opportunities there. Probably talk about Taylor Gooch a little bit too. Gooch is projected to be 4% owned right now. He's clearly, and everyone's already brought it up. I mean, as soon as the prices came out, he's clearly the overprice of the slate by all means. I actually think this course fits him a little bit because he can be a little bit weary off the tee at times. So he's not going to have to worry about, long rough or, really bad hazards, at least off the tee. A lot of the hazards, the water is again around the green. So his approach game is pretty solid. He shouldn't have to worry too much about that. But I don't know. I like Sam Burns for $100 less, honestly. So he's in a little bit better form. I don't know why he is less than Taylor Gooch by any means. I really don't know. Yeah, Gooch didn't even look that great at the match play either. So I don't know. There is some solid leverage opportunities there, but I'll let the other guys at Fantasy Points kind of talk you through that throughout the week, and we'll get into the schedule that we have planned here in a second. I love looking at ownership from previous years, especially the last year. It just kind of takes you back into what we as a fantasy golf community. Sorry. So what we as a fantasy golf community were thinking at the time. So last year, Spieth was the highest owned golfer. He was 32% owned. He was just a few days off of his Valero Texas Open victory, and he had great course history at Augusta as well. So it makes sense why he was the highest owned. Again, he was coming off of a win. But he paid off the chalk. He finished tied for third. So, we can talk about not playing chalky guys all the time, but if their results pay off, then it really doesn't matter. JT was second in highest owned. He finished T21. He was 29% owned. Paul Casey was T26. He was 28% owned. Corey Connors finished T8. He's going to be a very popular play this week due to his small sample size of course history. He was 24% owned, excuse me. He's always paid off the chalk, though. The year before that in 2020, he was in the 6Ks, and he I mean, I don't remember what his percentage was. I know it was over 10 to 15%, and he paid that off as well. So with the top 10, I think he finished 10th actually. So and Bryson, he finished T46. If you forgot from last year, Bryson said the course was a par 67 going into the event. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's Bryson. So yeah, that was the top 5 highest owned from last year. I wouldn't really say the chalk paid off by any means, besides Spieth and Connors. JT was, top of the field, top of the board, I'm sure, in salary, T21. Bryson was up there as well, T46. Paul Casey, he's always I swear he's always at like 7,400, 7,600. T26, that's not terrible. But I don't know. There's definitely opportunities to get leverage around those guys. And again, you can hear about that more throughout these the other fantasy point streams throughout the week. Okay. So again, you can see my favorite picks on fantasy points throughout my article. Cam Smith's my favorite. He's at 9,900 this week. Again, I understand I'm taking one of the chalk donkey picks throughout this, but again, to be fair, and I talked about it in the article, like I really wanted to play Cam Smith here and bet him here for months now, way before his players win, way before his win at the Century. Honestly, when he first played here way back in the November Masters of 2020, I just said I'm playing him at the next Masters, and I did, and it paid off. So I'm gonna do it again. I just think his game fits really well here. He's pretty sucky off the tee at times. That's probably the best word I can use to describe him. But again, he's not going to have to worry about that a whole lot here. At Kapalua, the fairways are really wide open, and he scored better than 30 under par. Obviously, he won't be doing that this weekend, but it's another course that again had those wide fairways that just really played into his game. And he can play well on long courses too. I know he's not the longest player, but he won at the Players. The Players wasn't super long. Kapalua was pretty long as well. But the Players is another difficult course that's not, that 30 under par that had terrible weather conditions that, again, we might see this week as well if the wind kicks up to 20, 30 miles an hour, depending on, if those forecasts are correct. So I don't know. I see a lot of people talking off Cam Smith. And I understand the ownership is high, and I don't know. That's just I really like Cam Smith this week. I'm not going to get off that because if I got off Cam Smith only because of ownership and he went out there and won, I'd probably quit DFS. But no, yeah, I like Cam Smith. Neiman's going to be my other favorite play. He just ranks really well in my model. Number 1 in short game. He plays well on these big boy courses, as I say here. I really like Neiman quite a bit. So I'll definitely be playing him quite a bit. And again, Tom Hoagy, 5th in my model. He's my value play this week. We'll see how it goes. Again, this is his first time at Augusta, so it's really hard to expect like a win out of Tom Hoagy. There's no way. I'm not even going to bet Tom Hoagy. I just think top 5, top 10. He's a really high ceiling, low floor player, but he's got that high upside that you really need in a GPP. So I like Tom Hoagy quite a bit. That's really all I got in the article there. If you want to, more in-depth breakdown there, if you want to, read about it more, see some of the stats on paper instead of me spitting in a microphone, you can, again, see that on Fantasy Points. It's linked to my article, linked to my Twitter, which is at Huntman10. You can see that down below. But yeah, that's really all I got from a course preview perspective. With the Masters, there's a lot to go over, and it was a lot of fun diving into the history of the Masters, as well as a lot of the holes too. It's just going to be fun to see how, what I read throughout the week and last week, just see it on TV, of course. So looking forward to that. Any questions or anything I can, help you all with? I didn't mean to talk so much there, but again, it's the Masters. There's so much to go over there. In the future, I really want this to be, more of a discussion. You can read my articles on Fantasy Points, but I plan to have more guests throughout here as well. It's not just going to be me talking. Probably not the best at just talking, one-on-one solo. So I got a lot of people that I think would be great to bring on here, and looking forward to do that. They're doing that. So, all right, yeah. Any questions? You can throw them in the YouTube chat there. Otherwise, of course, you can hop in the Discord within Fantasy Points. Again, we're offering a great package. They've got a great team built, for the PGA package. So can't wait to see what the other content that gets produced. You'll see a lot of that tomorrow. If you're asking any questions, I'll kind of give you some time there. Some content that we have throughout the week. Tuesday, you'll see the DFS tiers article from Chris Murphy's. And as well as the DFS values from Dom. Again, that's going to come out tomorrow on Tuesday. Wednesday, you'll see our staff picks. So you'll see all of our favorite picks, outright plays from favorites all the way down to long shots. We'll give some finishing position plays, some matchups as well. I think it's going to be cool to just see how we stack up against each other as a staff. So, and of course, on Wednesday night, you'll see us all in the Discord. Like I said, weather could potentially be a big thing to look into. My best advice to you is to hop into that Fantasy Points Discord and ask any questions that you got, because, again, we'll know a little bit more on Wednesday. At the end of the week, you'll see a weekend show from Jers or Matt Gannon, a final round regression candidates from myself. That'll be an article, and then we'll have some dedicated Discord time as well. So. All right. I think that's all I got. Appreciate you all watching. Appreciate you sticking with me here. It's been a crazy ride, kind of, from when I started just creating spreadsheets and throwing them on Twitter to, sit in front of a microphone here by myself. So appreciate everyone that I've gotten to know throughout the last year and a half or so. It's been a lot of fun. So otherwise, if you don't have any questions, you can, again, hit me up on Twitter at Huntman10. Really got to push this Fantasy Points package to you guys. I think it's going to be really great. There's going to be a lot of great tools out there, and optimizer. We'll get some projections for you guys, of course. And of course, you'll get as much, any questions that you potentially have. We'll be in that Discord as much as possible to help you guys get to the top of your lineups, of your events. So. Yeah, let's look at some betting odds. Yeah, I can for sure I can do that. Let's look, and I'd love to talk about some of these guys as well. Thanks, Patrick. So I'm gonna share a screen here quick. Let me pull up golf quick before I do that. And those of you that have followed me for a while, I'm really not a huge betting guy. I'm going to get into it much more, as the majors are getting underway. And oops, let's do that. Sorry. Let me change that. Sorry, it's taking too long. There we go. Okay, so yeah, here's some betting odds here. Let me zoom in on this too so y'all can see it. This is pretty solid. DraftKings got some solid odds. The book that I've been looking at has way too many guys below 20 and under, or 20 to 1, excuse me. So Rahm's going to be your leader again. Scheffler's still number 1 in the world, but Jon Rahm's going to be your favorite so far for the Masters, of course. JT's coming in second at 12 to 1. Scheffler again 12 to 1 as well. Cam Smith's 14 to 1. That's my favorite play. Would have liked to get a better number, but I gotta. I have that feeling that he's gonna do well here, so I really don't care what the number is. I'm still gonna bet him. I don't care. And DJ at 16 to 1 there. So all 5 of those guys, really, I can't talk you off any of them. As far as the DFS strategy goes, I think you gotta make a decision on Rahm or Scheffler. Scheffler is probably going to be half the ownership. I don't know. I don't know. It's tough because there's just this aura around Jon Rahm that he is, top of the game, and he plays so well at Augusta. So Scheffler's just been proving people wrong. He's proved me wrong multiple times so far this year. So it's hard for me to vouch against him. But again, from DFS, I think you can get some great leverage on Scheffler there. Let's look at some lower odds here, or some better odds, excuse me. I should have talked about that before. If you're trying to get different this week, you are playing Hovland and you're playing Morikawa in DraftKings. Not touching them as far as an outright goes, but again, if you're trying to get different, if you're playing those milli makers, I would start with both of those two guys. There's no reason why they can't contend. I mean, there's a reason. It's their short game and their chipping is just pretty terrible, especially Hovland. I shouldn't say terrible, but it's just very suspicious at times. So, um, yeah, big fan of Walker. Yeah, Neiman, big fan of Neiman this week. Let's look at Neiman's odds down here. Did I pass it already? Or am I just blind? Oh, wow. 65 to 1 here on DraftKings. So that's pretty solid. I think I saw him at 45 to 1 or even 37 to 1 on other sites. FanDuel was, I think, the 30 or sorry, the 45. So if you're trying to bet Neiman, definitely look at DraftKings. And I mean, again, no expert on the outright part. Look at your the odds checkers. They're going to have all that information there for you. We're going to try and get those widgets into the fantasy points article so you can see all these odds right there on the screen. But again, always look at odds checker, especially if you're in a state that you can bet on whatever book that you want to. So I'm in Lameville, Nebraska, so I basically stick with FanDuel or DraftKings when I head across the border. So yeah, that's so those are the odds. Anyone specific that you want to look at, or I can pull up some of their stats as well, some of their fantasy national stats here. We can look at Neiman as well, and I'll show you why I like Neiman a lot this week. All right, so let's go to tournament history here. Oh, nope, I don't want to do that. Sorry. So let's just talk about it here quick. Or let me just pull his stats up here. Like I said, Neiman ranks first in stroke game for me, which I'm really looking into this week out of the last 24 rounds. And that's kind of what I've been looking at. For most of these guys, that's going to get them, throughout the last year. Some guys, of course, don't have that many stats, or their stats are, in Europe and or on the Euro Tour, excuse me. And again, you're just not going to see as many rounds, but for the most part, last 24 covers, all of this season, gets through a lot of last season. It doesn't go so far back to where you're pulling up from like 2017, 18, but it still goes back far enough to where if a guy was in a slump for a few weeks, it's not going to completely wreck the stats. So that's what I like to look at least. All right, so again, Cam Smith first in a short game for me. First in around the green is going to be Luke List and Joaquin Neiman, though. I really like Neiman, like I said. If I look at overall around the green stats, again, that's going to be a big part of my model this week. Let's pull up some green stats here. And Neiman is not as great in scrambling. He's 18th in scrambling, but he's really proved, at least me wrong. I didn't think he was a great around the green player for a while, a long time ago, but he's been playing really well, especially around those greens so far this season. And he played well at the Riviera, which is one of those comp courses that I was talking about. So I don't know. It's just some feeling that I have with Neiman this week. I think he fits the tee to green, narrative. He's been playing well. He's got a win so far this season, so he fits that narrative as well. So at 8,200 on DraftKings, as far as a DFS perspective goes, I really like Neiman quite a bit. All right. Any other questions? Throw them in the YouTube chat there. We're probably running out of time here, so if you have any questions, again, you are free to hit me up on Twitter. I will always answer DMs. There's rarely ever been a DM that I haven't reached back to. So that's my favorite part of this, is just the interaction and getting to know some of you all. So let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, thanks for joining. The debut of the early tee time live stream, again presented by Fantasy Points. Let's have a great week, everybody. I'm really looking forward to watching and go Tiger. All right. Have a great night, everybody.